Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 25 of Rise Up the Podcast. I'm here with your favorite host, Greg Gurenlian. Unfortunately, Scotty Rogers is unable to be with us today. He's coaching those Calvert Hall boys to a victory. So shout out to Scotty, shout out to the Calvert Hall men's lacrosse team there. We hope they catch a dub. But Greg, before we get into this action-packed episode, we got Joey Spallina coming on. We got big weekend of games to recap, and we have the NCAA tournament really starting to shake out. Tell me about your week. How have you been?
It's good, man. Big shout out to Mamaroneck High School. We were down 8-2 at halftime, came out in the second half against a very good Wantagh team, and we ended up winning 12-11. Will Schlama, the face-off man, absolute savage, only lost 2 face-offs the whole rest of the game. So, yeah, awesome stuff on that front. As far as everything else goes, man, I've just been enjoying the college lacrosse. We're getting close to tournament time. I love the conference tournaments. It's just a cool thing. How about you?
Dude, I was actually up in your neck of the woods this week, up in White Plains. I drove by the Mamaroneck signs, and I thought
no call,
of you.
Huh?
What are you going to come watch me coach up my third graders? No way. I should have. I was Probably down and back. Exactly. But my Pelham third and fourth grade team had a big victory against White Plains. We're still only playing 7-on-7, but kids are improving. Love to see.
Love Pelham.
Yeah,
face-off man for Pelham, Jack Mallinson. Good kid.
Dude, they're building the program, and they brought me in to start building the blocks, building the foundation early. We got a good group of coaches from New York City. We commute up. Some great former college players, Joe Riley, Connor Gately, Matt Graham, all, very successful college players. So it's great, doing it with them and fun hanging out with the kids.
Yeah, we'll have to get the Pelham boys into the FOA at some point. We can talk about that.
For sure. I can connect you there. But then, today, busy day. I had full day of work, had a lesson with my boy Pedro up in the Upper West Side, and then had a nice dinner. And I was thinking about this while I was eating. I want to bring it up with you. There's nothing I enjoy more than a nice tall glass of milk with my dinner. And I get so much hate about it. Like, what's your take on that?
I got to tell you, that's not me.
No?
I am strictly a ice water guy at dinner. Even if, last night we took the kids out to hibachi for the first time, and I asked for a Sapporo, a large, of course, and that thing's got to be done by the time food comes out, because I do not like drinking beer with my dinner. I'm not that kind of guy. So, yeah, I mean, hey, man, whatever gets you going.
I get so much heat about it, and it's like I never want to go out. Like if I go out to dinner, I'm not going to order a glass of milk. But in my own home, that's just how I grew up. Like when I was a kid, always glass of milk with dinner, and I still love it after a long day, sitting down having some chicken and rice and a tall glass of milk.
Hey man, good for you. Hey, you get that extra vitamin D in there. Hey, whatever gets you going, dude.
Yeah, strong bones. But like I said earlier, we have an action-packed episode. As always, it's brought to you by our sponsors, Rhoback. Use code RISEUP20 for 20% off all of your Rhoback orders. We love rocking it. I love rocking it. I'm going down to play golf in South Carolina this weekend. I'll be packing my Rhoback out on the course. Don't get your face so excited. It's not a golf trip, but it's a wedding. But I've made sure to bring my sticks and mix it around while I'm down there. But yeah, and then also we're going to have to shout out Face Off Academy and 42 Performance LLC. We just heard Greg talking about the outstanding performance. I have to assume that's a FOA guy. Of course he is. And, these guys I'm on with here every week, they're just, putting in work day in, day out, making people at their respective positions better, preparing them for college, all that great stuff. So shout out to them. And, we're going to get into some scores and recaps later this week or later in the episode after Spallina comes on. But, tell me, I guess, where we are in the season. Like, how are you feeling? And I know, your Penn State Nittany Lions are, still, clocking wins in. We had some big games this weekend. Duke just swept UVA. What was your main takeaway from this past weekend?
Man, Duke really has UVA's number. I didn't realize till the beginning of the season how long it's been since UVA beat Duke in the regular season. I had no idea. But when you look at this right now, I think the picture's becoming clearer. There are some teams that have really lit up the resume. So when you look at the ACC, you got UVA, Notre Dame, Duke, locks. I think when you look at the Big Ten, you have Penn State, Maryland. I would even argue Hopkins are locks. And then the Ivies, man, I think Cornell's the only lock. And then who knows? But then you got the tournaments and you have automatic bids. Now the ACC doesn't get an automatic bid, but the other conferences do. So those conference tournaments are going to mean a lot this year. If Penn State manages to beat Rutgers, which Rutgers is going to be playing for their lives, not going to be easy.
I'm so done with Rutgers, getting all this hype because they're still getting ranked high, with the math and the RPI.
I think they're still getting ranked based on what they did a couple of years ago.
But still, I mean, looking at their wins, they beat Princeton, but they lost to a struggling Ohio State team. They lost to Hopkins, they lost to Maryland, and they lost to Army. And Army, quite frankly, when they lost by a goal to Cornell, all the numbers point to that. They're Patriot League or bust. Like even though they're sitting at 9-2 or 10-2, whatever they are, their route at an at-large just isn't there anymore because of that Cornell loss. And now if they won, it'd be a different story. But because the ACC sucks up so many at-large bids, that's the problem. Yeah. And now these teams are fighting for so much fewer spots.
Yeah, I mean, the ACC is definitely going to have 3. And I think when you look at, Syracuse isn't done yet. UNC could make a run. You never know. And the ACC could suck up a bunch, like you're saying. Now, the Ivy League, you got Cornell. The other ones all the other teams are just beating each other and fighting. The Patriot League is fascinating to me. Lehigh versus BU this weekend is going to be massive. And I think when you look at the Patriot League, you have Navy is still fighting. They refuse to die. Army's had a pretty decent season. And then you have Lehigh, you have BU. Right now, as we speak, Loyola is getting massacred by Georgetown. Like I might have to call the cops. Loyola's Twitter account stopped tweeting about 10 minutes ago. So things are not good. So it's interesting, man. It's going to be a wild last week.
I'm excited for it for sure. And, we'll get into some more things later on in the episode. But without further ado, we're going to turn it over to freshman phenom number 22 at Syracuse, Joey Spallina. A very, very welcome to the podcast, Joey Spallina, number 22 for the Syracuse Orange, was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. Man, we're pumped to have you on. How you doing, Joey?
Good. Yeah, I just got done with my last class of the day. So all good.
Yeah, how the professors treating you there up in upstate?
They've all been good except my archaeology at the movies guy. He's it's been brutal.
Wait, it's called archaeology at the movies?
Yeah, it's honestly a pretty interesting class. Just like the guy teaches in monotone, so it's just brutal.
Yeah, dude, you get that every once in a while. You gotta.
How do you become an archaeology at the movie professor?
No, it's the class is it's pretty easy. We take a 10-minute quiz, and then he teaches for an hour, and then we watch a movie for the other hour. It's actually crazy.
This is a fantastic recruiting cell for a lot of kids out there right now.
It's funny you bring that up because that reminds me of a class I took at Villanova. So we were a Catholic school, but we had a class called Bible on the Big Screen.
No way.
And we would watch, movies that were related to Bible stories, and then we'd have to talk about how they related.
Did you watch 10 Commandments?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dude, that probably took you half a semester to watch.
No, we had to watch on our own time and then talk about
it. That's a 12-hour movie. So, Joey, for those people don't understand at home, before he was number 22 at Syracuse, Joey Spallina was the bobblehead sitting at Lizards practice, sniping corners by himself.
Oh, yeah.
And your brothers were running around and helping me with face-off drills before games. Dude, tell us about growing up. Your dad is making a name for himself as a legendary women's lacrosse coach. He was, he led me to the promised land with the Lizards to a championship. I am indebted to him for that forever. But just tell us about growing up as a Spallina, man. Your uncle's in the Hall of Fame now, Brian. Just tell us all about it.
So I would first start with just those practices are unreal, that was the best part of my week was getting to go to those, and I would leave school probably an hour early, which was always so awesome. But yeah, just getting to have a catch and like, shoot with like Rob and Paul and Joe Walters, like just like all those guys, like it was just unreal. It was just like probably like just the sickest thing ever. But definitely to go back to my family. I mean, like for like the holidays, like no one is safe. Like you can get chirped doing anything, and God forbid if you have a girlfriend, like you got to tell everybody about her, and you got to show you got to show pictures, and what she does and what her parents do, and the whole 10. It's unreal. But yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely what has made me into the player that I am today. Like you got to have thick skin. I think growing up in my house, there's 5 of us. No, there's actually there's 9 of us now. We have 2 dogs, which are beasts, and they might be the most aggressive people in the house right now. They are absolutely they are dogs, like legit dogs. Sick. But yeah, I mean it's just unreal.
Yeah, Joey, that's so funny. Growing up in a family like that, it's like iron sharpens iron. It's either get
No
with
doubt.
it or get out. But talk to me more about growing up, as being part of that legendary Team 91 team, and you see all those guys that you played with having so much success in the college game now, man. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty funny. Me and my dad were talking about this, and it's like if you go down like the roster, like every guy is like like contributing or like like doing like really really well. Like it's sick. Like that team was just unreal. I mean, from top to bottom, it was like every guy I think starts, which is unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think just like growing up and playing on that team and playing up 2 years was just like you almost like had to be good, or else you were just gonna get killed, But yeah, I mean, just playing with those guys and with Brennan and Mac, they're great players, But yeah, I mean, like they definitely taught me a ton, and I mean, our defense was great. I don't think anybody really talks about them, but they were unreal. But so just being able to go against them, for 4 to 5 days a week for 3 hours at a clip, is definitely what made me into the guy and player that I am right now. So yeah,
Which is a pretty damn good player right now. And I know
trying hard.
your family, you guys, you'll never toot your own horn. So I'll do it for you here. Like right now, as a freshman wearing 22,
Yeah,
you're ahead of schedule as far as points go as Mikey Powell's legendary freshman year.
Mhm.
And when you look at the 22s and the rafters there, like what's it been like from the time you got to campus and knowing everybody pointing at you, knowing who you are, knowing what you're
Yeah.
going to wear to right now? Like what's that evolution been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like just like the first practice was like, it was pretty crazy, because like you got Coach Petro who's unreal, and he's screaming at you and talking crap to you. So but I think from that point to right now, I think obviously I've definitely changed as a player and as a person, but yeah, I mean, just wearing 22, just like you go anywhere and like there's always like someone that like knows about lacrosse, which is which is the biggest recruiting point that I can say for Cuse is like everybody cares. Like it could be anybody, like everybody cares. Like Cuse lacrosse is life, like which is sick, But yeah, I mean, just like having like 22s from the past, like reach out to me and all that stuff has been great. I mean, after that first game, which I couldn't hit the side of a barn, but I think I got my stuff together since that point. But yeah, I mean, it's just like playing in the dome, and just like you just get the chills every time. It's just an unreal feeling and place to play. But yeah, I mean, it's been just as I would have imagined it to be.
And you brought up your first game, and we had Kark on, not too long after that. And, we were talking to Kark about it. And, I said to Kark, the first one drops, he's having 3, 4, 5 goals that game. You're generating such great looks. And,
Yeah.
I could tell you were frustrated, but, that's how it goes sometimes as a first game, first game as a college player. But back to how you talked about, your life at home, that iron sharpens iron. Like you shut everyone right up right after that. And I've loved to see
Yeah.
that. And it's so fun watching you guys play. I love tuning in whenever I can. You guys play like with some flair. You're having fun out there. You can tell everyone on the field on the offensive end is having fun. So what's it like playing with those guys? You got Hiltz, Simmons, who's a fifth year, and then that kid, what's his name? Finn Thompson is so fun to watch. His stick skills. Oh my God.
Yeah. Finn is. I've grown to be very close with Finn, and I think I actually talked about this the other day. Like the thing that is definitely great with this offensive group is we are all best friends. Like we're with each other all the time. Doing God knows what. But we're it's just a great group of guys. And I think someone that's really helped me offensively with just everything and just being a good teammate and being a good player is Cole Kurse. I don't know if I don't know if you guys have ever met him, but Cole Kurse is like if I was to have a daughter, a kid, I would want her to date him. Like he is the man. He is the nicest guy, unreal. Like he's helped all of us out like a ton, because he brings like the energy to practice that when like you might not want to go outside when in the middle of March when you got Maryland that week, but he's the first guy out there screaming and getting everybody going. But yeah, it's just been great so far. Like you said, we're just having fun, and just we're just playing together right now.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Kurst. I feel bad not shouting him out. I played at Villanova with his older brother Connor, and that family is just all time nicest human beings out there. So smiley.
Never
always
heard a bad thing.
Always put a smile on your face.
Always. It's unreal.
So where you guys are at now? Let's talk right now. So you guys came off a big dub. You guys are still making noise, and I feel like we were just talking about in the intro about the outlook of the ACC in this home stretch. What do you guys what do you see coming forward? What are things that are making the difference for this team as you guys put these big wins together?
Yeah, so I think in the beginning of the year, I think it was just like one play away, like each game. It was like one play that just like completely turned the game. Or like that one play at the end where we just couldn't find the goal. But we're just taking it one game at a time right now. And I think we're just focusing in on the team that we're playing that week. I think we played a great Princeton team. I think that was the first game that we've played together for 60 straight minutes, and I think that carried over into the next game, and hopefully UNC can carry over into this weekend. But yeah, I think like even like practice like today and Monday, like it was intense. Like it's like everybody's just dialed in and like just like ready to go, which I think is definitely a big thing from the beginning of the year. It's just how like intense practices have been. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that you can tell how hard a team practices and how hard they prepare by the way that they engage from the beginning of a game.
Yeah.
And I feel like you guys, you're in a position, in my opinion, where everything's laid out right in front of you.
No doubt.
And if you finish strong, then you guys can get into the tournament, and then you're dangerous.
Yeah.
So good luck on that part. I think you guys are starting to figure it out, and like Saib said, the offense just looks like it's having a good time. I feel like Jack Fine is giving you guys a little bit more of a dynamic look at the stripe.
No doubt. Yeah.
Which is good to see. I haven't seen Jack in a while. I've missed that kid.
He's awesome.
Yeah, but the one other thing I wanted to ask you too, what's it like knowing that your brothers are coming right after? Like you're gonna have those knuckleheads at Syracuse with you soon.
Yeah, I think the only thing my mom's really worried about is just like us going out at night, all three of us at the same place, might not end up too well for some
Your mom,
guys.
that might
But
be the only person on earth who doesn't want her younger brothers to go out with their older brother.
yeah,
And if they see, she's like, you're actually going to get in more trouble.
Fighting over the bottom bunk.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I think everybody dreams of playing with their family, which is definitely something that I'm looking forward to. I think Jake's going to have a great opportunity right away. I think same with Brett too. But yeah, I mean, I think, I just like Jake is just a dog. He's not fun to play against at all. And him, I will never forget this story. It's it was my junior year. Jake was a sophomore. It was like our first game. It was like the first game where like he's like really playing. And I forgot who we were playing, but it was like the first like run that he had. He just lights this kid up like a full like non-releasable, and I'm like, I'm gonna love playing with this kid like for the 10 or so, like because I know like one, like he'll always have my back, which is what you want. But I mean, like he's just a beast. I think he's gonna come in and help us in multiple spots. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, Jake's going to come in and help. I mean, Brett, both of them are going to help, but Jake's going to have an opportunity not just as a face-off guy, but also a two-way mid. It's going to be pretty cool. And Sibes, when we were at these Lizards practices when they were little guys, you would have the Unterstein. So Mike and Kevin Unterstein were practicing on one end, and they would get into fist fights with each other. And they're twins. And then you look down at the other end of the field, and Brett and Jake are twins, and they would be beating the shit out of each other on the other end. And you're just like, dude, how are we? And then we would go out and crush a team by 10 goals the next day. Like somehow that shit worked. Yeah, man. The mean streaks, both of them. I love it.
Yeah, they're beasts. They actually played. They played tonight. They played Bayport. They beat them 4-2. Very slow game. Which Bay
Long Island Lax, man. Heart nuts.
So slow. Yeah, they play so slow. But Brett, Jake had a goal and an assist. I think he was 10 of 11 on the face-off, which is good. And
in the office.
Yeah, Brett had a couple of GBs. He took I think a 1 minute unnecessary foul. So I was happy for him. And actually, Greg, I think you would appreciate this, but right before the game, my uncle sent a text in our group chat saying, "Brett, if you don't have at least 3 minutes in penalties, you are getting unadded from the chat."
Dude, I was gonna say, so Brett's a defender, and his idol growing up and watching was Brian Spallina, who, I mean, if you're gonna learn how to be in the box from anybody,
it's him.
It's him. Unbelievable. I could see Brett having a perfect defensive game, shutting an attackman down on that in a national semifinal, and then Brian yelling at him afterwards because he didn't get any penalties.
Because he didn't get any penalties. Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So Joey, we touched upon this a little bit, Greg, with kind of how the season's been going and the outlook for the last 2 games, and the ACC is tough this year, right? Because you don't have a tournament. So, you got 2 games left. You guys, really do control your own destiny here. And you're looking down the barrel of playing, two of the best teams in the country. What's the vibe in the locker room like?
I mean, so definitely after UNC, I think vibes are honestly great right now. I think everybody's just fired up and everybody knows like what's, like what we got to do. I don't think anybody's really talking about it. I think everybody just knows at this point, But yeah, I mean, vibes are great. I think we're definitely excited. I think we're very anxious, because we're obviously a very young team. But yeah, I mean, I think as you've seen, I think just the more that we play, the more comfortable we get, and I think that's just, I think that'll show this weekend. I think we got a pretty good game plan. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just like it's great right now. I think everybody's just pumped up and just absolutely jacked up.
Love it. Did they let you spin on the aux in the locker room as a freshman, or you got to wait your turn?
No. And you don't even want me on there. I'm a big country guy.
Everyone likes a country guy. I'm sure Kirst loves that stuff. No?
Cole's a big rock and roll guy. So he
Who
also does.
who runs the aux in the locker room?
This guy Johnny Cohen. We actually call him DJ Johnny Co.
Love it.
That sounds exactly like what you would call him. All the Long Island dudes at Syracuse right now.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Dude, but yeah, I mean, you got 2 games ahead of you. You control your own destiny. You've been absolutely crushing it. You know, it's interesting. People, optics wise, watching you and your brothers and your whole family, really. I mean, your sister's crushing it too.
Oh, she's killing it.
You know, and people can look back and say, oh, those kids are getting pushed too hard. They don't understand your family, man. You guys love it.
Yeah.
And, your dad is one of the best human beings I've ever been around. And he absolutely, he just cultivates your guys' passion. And I think, like you said, the first game of your entire career, you had a rough statistical game, but you figured it out. And like you said, your household was all about busting balls, was all about having tough skin, about whatever. And I know one thing about the Spallina family, it's us against the world. So, you figured it out. You're kicking ass right now. I'm so happy for you, dude. This is a very cool moment for me, just seeing how far you've come, literally from the time you're a little guy to now.
For real.
So good luck in the next 2 games, man. Good luck in those games. Hopefully, we'll see you in the tournament.
Hell yeah! Thank you guys.
Joey, it was a pleasure having you on, man. Good luck the rest of the year. I'm rooting for you. All of us over at Rise Up, we're cheering you and the Cuse on.
Hell yeah! Thank you guys.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back from that fantastic interview with Joey Spallina. Man, what a great kid. He's so smiley, giggling, and you can tell he's just enjoying himself as, a college lacrosse player, and I miss that shit, man. And, I root him on big time. I wish him all the best. It was great having him on.
Yeah, easy kid, easy family to cheer for sure.
Well, Greg, I know we touched upon it a little bit earlier on in this episode, but we got some scores to recap. Some big games with some big implications happened last weekend. We touched upon Duke beating UVA. I think, you mentioned, how Duke owns UVA in the regular season, and, they can hold that crown for now, but I still think UVA's like, we don't care. We got the rings from the past couple of years. Or do you think it actually matters, or not till it comes to playoff time?
It matters a lot on the recruiting trail. That's the only reason you see Duke shouting it from the rafters on Twitter.
They switched McCabe Milton from UVA to Duke, right?
I mean, I'm just saying, kids pay attention to everything.
But what recruits better than a national championship ring?
I don't know. One that never loses to that team. But I mean, look. I mean, if your kid is making a decision between UVA and Duke, you did it. You're a great parent. Way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Duke. It's crazy. This might be we were talking about this right before Duke really went on a tear. Remember, we were saying how no one's really talking about him. Deemer was saying it during our interview. He's like, we like this. No one's talking about us. No matter how many games they win, no one's like, every time, Duke versus UVA, I'm going to take UVA. Duke versus Notre Dame, I'm going to take Notre Dame. It's like they're winning, man. They won't stop winning. And I think the only team, in my opinion, that can handle them one-on-one is Notre Dame.
Yeah, Duke finishes out the season with Syracuse. We talked about it with Joey, and then Merrimack College. So nice little tune-up game before the tournament. But
don't sleep on Merrimack.
I mean, I don't think they're gonna. I think Duke will be ready to rock and preparing themselves for the tournament. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. But you're absolutely right about Duke. They're rolling. They're fun to watch. Brennan O'Neill is just continuing to do him. That kid Ledman, is coming out as a top mid one when he's basically played every position for Duke at some point in his career. So that's awesome to see. But yeah, I mean, they're both teams that we both know are going to go deep in the playoffs. And yeah, Duke has the bragging rights this week, but I think once tournament time comes around, hopefully they meet again.
Yeah, I mean, look, you never bet against Lark Tiffany, but you also don't bet against Dino. One of the reasons that they recruit offensive guys so well is because they always end up being who we thought they were going to be when they're at Duke.
And they all break each other's records. They all break each other's records.
Exactly who we thought he was going to be at Duke. McAdory is exactly who he thought he was going to be. So like there are some programs where high touted recruits end up going there and they don't quite turn out to be the badasses you thought they were going to be. You always end up being that dude when you go to Duke, because you have not just Coach Danowski, but you have his son Matt Danowski, who is an offensive guru.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got Caputo helping out as well. I mean that offense is clicking on all cylinders, man. I really think that when all is said and done, when you're looking at this picture, I would not be surprised at all if we end up with a Notre Dame Duke championship.
No, I don't think you're wrong. And you mentioned McAdory and O'Neal. I mean, we had Joey Spallina on. That was, who we played with in middle school and high school. Imagine showing up to a summer tournament and them rolling out those three. Like, what are you going to do?
Dude,
it's
that
insane.
club program could have beaten some college teams.
I meant to bring this up with Joey, but I've been in wormholes on YouTube before, and there's like an hour-long documentary about their Team 91 team on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Like at some point when the PLL, like 10 years from now, all of those dudes are going to be on a documentary talking about how
they're going to make a new PLL expansion team, Team 91.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that team was legendary. And once again, just a nice sad reminder that Brennan O'Neal committed to Penn State first.
Oh, I know.
So let's move on because I'm going to start to cry.
Let's move on to Penn State. Big win over Michigan. They were down most of the game. And Michigan's no easy out. They're a good team. And, Penn State is just continuing to find ways to win, continuing to strengthen their resume in a very hard league to win in. So for you as a Penn State fan, it's got to be looking good.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Michigan was the one I was worried about down the stretch. With 2 games left, the difference between this Penn State team and Penn State teams that I've seen over the last 5 to 6 years is, one, you cannot count this team out. So for instance, objectively, if you're watching on television, you're watching Michigan versus Penn State. You're watching Michigan winning the majority of the faceoffs throughout the entire game. Their faceoff guys going down and literally leaning at a 45-degree angle. You can see it from space. And all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, Chase Mullins, faceoff guy for Penn State, just says, screw this shit, and wins 4 out of 6 big ones. They come back and they win. This team always, even in the game they lost to Maryland, they scrapped and fought to the very last second. This team has guts. The other thing that they have is they aren't the Penn State teams of the past who will win a big game and then let you down the next week. We've had issues with that consistency. And right now, this is a consistent team that plays to the last whistle. And I love watching them play. The one game you saw them come out a little slow and not play balls to the wall was Marquette. And they ended up losing that game by 1. Marquette's a good team, in my opinion. They're tricky to play, especially that defense. But they learned a lesson that day, that if they don't come off the bus, they're not good enough just to have Penn State on their uniforms and win games. So if they win this game against Rutgers and they make it to the championship of the Big Ten tournament, I see them being a top 4 team.
Yeah. I think, the Big Ten right now at the top is a logjam. You have, Maryland 3-1, Hop 3-1, Penn State 3-1. And you jogged my memory a little bit talking about, the Penn State teams of old. And I look back to that Final Four run they had with Grant Ament and Mac O'Keefe. And you knew those were their guys, right? They were just absolute studs. They still are studs. But this year's Penn State team are doing it almost
this is a deeper team.
It's almost like they're nameless, not nameless because they have great players. The trainer brothers and what's the kid's name who wears number 7?
Dude, they got.
But TJ Malone.
Beat you. Yeah, they can beat you from the midfield. They can beat you from behind. They can beat you from the wing. They can beat you in transition. Their young goalie, is playing like a stud. All-American style last couple games. They are believing that they're as good as they are. And it's scary for the rest of the country. You don't want to play Penn State right now. I'm proud as hell to say that. I think it's awesome. And like I've said in the past, this is a Tambroni. Every single dude on this team has a hard hat, and they're going to work. So good for them. However, Rutgers is not a layup, and they're playing at home. In front of their seniors. The Penn State team is playing in front of their seniors. Senior night, you want to give it everything you got. But Rutgers is battling for their lives too. Rutgers needs to win out, and then they need to make serious noise in the Big Ten tournament to make it.
Absolutely. We'll stay in the Big Ten with the next result was Maryland 11, Rutgers 8. And what you're right, Rutgers is showing fight. That 3-goal loss to Maryland is nothing to be bummed out about. You're in a game with the defending national champs. But with that being said, you're absolutely right. Rutgers is on life support right now. I think they've squandered a bunch of opportunities that they've been in games, and they also really don't have a statement win. I don't think they've really beaten anyone of too much merit. So they're looking for that. And Penn State could be that kind of, badge for them to be like to the committee, hey, we got this, top 5 RPI win. So definitely a dangerous game.
They're a little bit like I was saying, like the old Penn State teams that were inconsistent. Like and any of their big wins at the time aren't as they're lackluster now. Like they beat Princeton, we're like, ooh, okay. They lose to Army, and now we're like, oh. And the problem for them is they can't hang their hat on a specific specialization. Like there are some teams where you're like Lehigh, for instance. You're like Lehigh is always got a shot against anybody because of Mike Sisselberger, right? And their goaltending is awesome. That's not the case. Rutgers is super inconsistent on faceoffs. So it's not like they're going to have a huge possession advantage in any of these games. So it's really hard. It's really hard if you don't have something that you're just profoundly better at that you can hang your hat on in really tough times. So yeah, I think I'm fascinated by the Ohio State-Michigan game coming up this weekend.
Definitely.
Obviously, that's a massive rivalry in sports, but Michigan beat Maryland. Ohio State has really underperformed this year.
But Ohio State,
things can't be easy.
Totally.
In Columbus right now.
No, I agree. And I'm sure they're frustrated. We talked about Glovegate in the game against Maryland. That's another game, they were right in it. And they just coming up a little short. But yeah, we'll touch upon this game quick. Cuse versus UNC. I know we talked about it a lot with Joey, but this win brought Cuse back from the dead, really. Now everyone's like, hey, these guys do have, a decent resume. And with 2 massive games coming up, if they win out, they're absolutely punching their ticket to the tournament.
Yes, they are. And, offense is having a great time. The defense is doing their thing. The face-offs are up and down. They had a transfer come in who I was shocked when they brought him in. It hasn't panned out at all. Jack Fine, who's actually from Roslyn, Long Island, has come in, and he has done a much better job, but it's still not a consistency for Syracuse. Now, I think Syracuse is ahead of schedule. I think if they make the tournament, it'd be unbelievable this year. Next year, they're going to be a problem. They have a crazy class coming in. They have arguably the top face-off guy in the country coming in as a freshman. Then they also have Jake Spallina coming in, who's also a very good face-off guy, but he's more of a McAdory type, 2-way mid type of guy. They have a lot of talent coming in. So it'll be interesting to see if they get this W this weekend, man. They're gonna catapult up the rankings.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like we talked about with Joey, they control their own destiny.
Yeah.
Last game I'm going to touch upon, and good thing Scotty's not here because we know he hates talking about the Ivy League, and I could kind of be considered an Ivy League hater too. But Penn with a big win over Harvard, 15-9, and the reason why this is so big is because Penn sits at 5-5 right now, but their RPI is 10, which I don't have my calculator out. I do not know how that number comes out of that formula, but I'm looking at the RPIs right now. Penn's 5-5, and they're the 10th RPI. Yale is 6-4, and they're the 9 RPI. And with records like that, I'd be hard pressed to think that they're gonna get into the tournament. Penn might not even be eligible for the tournament if they don't go over 500. Yeah.
Well, this goes back to what we were talking about last week when you raised your eyebrows. But I was saying this Ivy League team. You look at their records, and you're like, oh, like Princeton's not that good. Yeah. Put Princeton in the Patriot League, see what the hell happens. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is, man. And, these teams all are playing a competitive schedule. because of how good those teams are, Penn State's strength of schedule is ridiculous
Totally.
because they played Cornell, Yale, and Penn. So yeah, I think, it's going to be, I don't know if Ivy League, the only way I see Ivy League getting more than one team right now is
If Cornell gets upset.
If Cornell loses the Ivy League tournament.
Yeah, I agree. But I think just, back to your point, the Ivy League tournament, who knows how it's going to shake out. I'm sure a lot of these bubble teams, like my Villanova Wildcats right now, hope it goes to chalk and Cornell takes that bid and it's a one bid league. But, Harvard beat Cornell. Like that shouldn't have happened, but that's college lacrosse. Things like that do happen.
It's the Ivy League, man. When you play a team every year and it's a rivalry game in a conference as historic and competitive as that, anything can happen, man. I mean, look at the Big Ten. It's certainly not looking the way everyone thought it would this year.
Yeah, I mean, with Hopkins' resurgence, they're playing great ball. But yeah, that kind of completes our recap from last week.
Well, we gotta talk about one game this coming weekend.
You kick it off then. Kick Army, it off. Navy. Love it.
Yeah, let's talk about Army Navy. I think Navy. So Navy lost their number one offensive player, went down. They played Colgate the next game and they looked completely lost. They lost 3 in a row at one point, and now they're on a winning streak. And they are believing in themselves. Anthony Gabriel, their what is he, a freshman or sophomore? I think he's a sophomore. Face-off man is crushing it from Highland Park, Texas. And, Army is very similar, where they've had a couple impressive wins. They have a pretty good record, but when you look at their strength of schedule, it's kind of all over the place. So, I think, you take that away from the fact that I've just always, we grew up watching Army Navy football in my house all the time. I have, good relationships with both the head coaches at Army and Navy, and I just love this rivalry. What do you see happening in this game? I
mean, I feel like these games always are just 1-goal games, overtime games. It means so much to the players that are playing in it. That the students come out and support. You see them all dressed up in their uniforms. It's, really special event, how it is in football, like you mentioned. And I know some people that have played at both colleges in lacrosse, and they tell us about how much that game means to them. And right, if they just win that one game, I think that makes their season. And
it's kind of crazy, man.
You talk about how Army's sitting at 9-2. They beat Rutgers. They have losses to UMass, first game of the season, and Cornell by a goal. So they are really kind of win the Pat League and in, because their RPI is sitting at 21, so that's not going to get them in. Not going to get in that large. So, I mean, I think they're playing for their lives right now, and I think that Army is going to come out a little bit more inspired. I think that Navy has been a little, I know you talked about they went on a little bit of a run, but I think that they are kind of just finding kind of replacement parts at this point, where a lot of their kind of main guys have been out. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great game either way.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. I think when I look at this schedule, I'm obviously excited for that one. I think Maryland Hopkins is going to be a dogfight, but I think Maryland's going to win that one.
So I want to ask you something, because the big buzz on Lax Twitter this week is how the Army Navy game is scheduled at the same time as the Hopkins Maryland game. Two of the arguably biggest rivalries in college lacrosse. I know our boy Quint Kesnick, went on his soapbox and talked about how we need to be better at scheduling these games for the viewers, for the fans at home. And honestly, I agree with them. If you're going to watch these games on TV, right, I don't know that many casual fans are going to have, their iPads up on one and then the game on their TVs. So I think, we do need to be a little bit better at scheduling. What do you think?
We do, but also we have this interesting juxtaposition in lacrosse where we want lacrosse to be as big as other sports, but then we also refuse to accept that we have to do things that other big sports do. So when you go to college football Saturday, the games aren't spread out 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. so that we can watch every single game. No, I'm a Penn State guy. I'm going to watch the Penn State game. And, there's only so many hours in the day, man. Like, if you are obsessed with the Navy Army game, you're probably not obsessed with the Maryland Hopkins game. Like, you just have to pick, man. Hey, good news, it's 2023. Okay, go to the ESPN app, watch both the games, man. Okay, it's not really worth getting that upset about. I think, they spread them out the way they have to based on the the stadiums. But it is, I would I like for the games to be back to back? Sure, but they're just not. So
no, you're right. You're right. That's the realistic take, how the world works take. But yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that Hopkins Maryland game. You said you see Maryland coming on top. Games at Maryland, they're -2 favorites. I know they play for that big wooden crab. What do you think about this game?
So yeah, I think it is going to be. I think it's going to come down to the end. I think Maryland's just going to have an overwhelming possession advantage.
Yeah.
I think Weirman's going to be Weirman. Now, the one thing is what we've learned so far with the travesty of officiating right now with faceoffs is they are Maryland refs. So both teams, those guys are going to be used to however it's being called there. So not a massive competitive advantage for anybody. But I feel like at the end of the day, the insane play by Maryland's goalie right now and their face-off advantage is what's going to put them over the top. I like. What'd you say the spread is too?
It's -2 to Maryland.
You don't see very many even twos. That's interesting.
Push plays.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So yeah, that one's interesting to me. Virginia, Syracuse, obviously. If you're an ACC guy, you want to see a whole bunch of lacrosse. I mean, if you're just a blue blood lacrosse fan, then yeah, Virginia, Syracuse at 2, and then you get your Maryland Hopkins at 6. So there you go, Quint. You get some sleep tonight. I think Petey LaSalla is going to be the main difference maker. I was actually talking to a PLL coach today because the big board came out. A couple people, our boy Dan Aresti put out his big board for the PLL, and none of them had Petey LaSalla on it. And I'm personally offended as a face-off guy. Like, I didn't coach Petey LaSalla. I'm just a fan of his game. I think he is like a 2.0 version of like a Joe Nardella. Like, Joe Nardella is a great face-off guy, but I just feel like Petey LaSalla is faster, stronger, like meaner. And I think that he and Mike Sisselberger are definitively the top 2 pro-ready face-off guys going into this draft. So I think he's going to be the difference maker. I think I love Syracuse, but I think Virginia's
that spread's -5 to UVA. I'm confident in Syracuse after having Joey on. I'd take the +5 points. I mean, I think it's a pretty close game.
You know what? If this was in the Dome, I would agree with you.
Yeah, and I don't know what the total is, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of goals in that game.
A lot of goals.
There's going to be a lot of goals.
A lot of goals. And it's funny because you have 2 of the historic greatest defensive coaches in our game, and Lars Tiffany and Coach Petramala, but the offenses are insane.
Know what I meant to bring up to you that, give some face-off love from me is when I was watching that Cuse UNC game, they said that the UNC face-off guy leads the midfield in goals for UNC.
Andrew Tyre leads the midfield in goals.
I think that's what I heard. I'm going to pull this up because
that might be indicative of why they're last.
But I mean, face-off stay on. You got to love that, right?
That's not a good indicator of success. My first year in 2010 with the Lizards, 3 or 4 games in, I was second on the team in points, and we were 0.
So there's on the roster they have 4 players listed as attack, so that might be why. But the 4th attackman has 14 goals, and the face-off guy has 13 goals. The next midi, Harry Welford, has 12 goals. So
Andrew Tyre has 13 goals this year?
13-1. Yeah, dude.
Does he also play man up like I did at Penn State? Is that because I don't? Holy shit, kid!
He just throws sky whammies on the break and drops his hands and puts it under the bar.
Andrew, you're the man, dude. That's baller status shit right there.
I mean, 13 goals is crazy.
Kid's averaging a goal a game as a faceoff man in Division I. Holy shit!
I would love to know what the single season record for goals by a faceoff guy is.
That's a great question.
Because he's got to be close. He's got to be.
Does that mean only off of faceoffs, though?
I think all of his goals are only off faceoff. I know, like, in the past.
No, I'm asking, like, all-time record. Are you? Because I might enter the chat on that one because I played man up at Penn State.
Yeah, and I know, like, remember Tim Edwards at all?
Yes.
Yeah, he played, like, everything at Canisius.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know he faced off, but I think he probably had, like, 40 points, too. So, like, I don't.
Max Sebald.
Yeah.
And John Glenn were technically face-off guys. We could go down. Kyle Harrison.
Yeah. Okay. So
there you go.
So we have to draw. I think we'd have to draw a line. We'd have to draw a line in the sand somewhere at some time period when the position really kind of became a little bit more specialized.
I think you only count possession from a face-off into a goal, but that's good for a later episode that we could totally talk about for sure.
Absolutely.
As I make my way through the schedule, we got Princeton, Harvard. Oh my God. It's a historic rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, you say everything is a rivalry in the Ivy League. I want to hear more what you think about UNC Notre Dame. Notre Dame -5.5. Is ND just a buzzsaw? They're going to roll right through.
Notre Dame at 5.5. At home.
Yes.
To try to solidify a number 1 seed. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Not an easy place to play. So yeah, I'm going to take that. I think they're just primed, man. And UNC has been up and down this year. Coming off a loss to Syracuse, it's a little bit different getting on that bus, getting ready for that game.
It's a tough trip. That's a tough trip to make from.
Yeah, and hey, look, I love Coach Corrigan. I love Coach Wellner. I love the guys at Notre Dame. That's not a fun place to go visit, man. South Bend, Indiana.
At least it's mid to late April.
Dude, South Bend, Indiana. I mean, and God help everybody if it's raining that day. You're just sad. You're just a sad person. I'm interested. Hey, big one. Villanova versus Marquette.
Massive one. Massive.
You need this.
So, and unfortunately, this is like the alumni back weekend, and usually I organize a bus, but no bus. I'm going to be down in South Carolina at a wedding. So I passed the I passed the baton.
Villanova alum out there, if they don't win this one, guess who you can blame? So we're going to have trolling with Sibes on the next episode.
So
rip him apart.
Villanova just came off a big win, get right win, right? They dropped, they had a tough one to Denver. They go up to Providence. They win 20-8. Pretty handily against a pretty decent Providence team that just lost by 2 to Georgetown. But this Marquette team is good. They beat Penn State. They took Georgetown to overtime last week. They're going to give Villanova everything they can handle. And
dude, this coaching staff is so phenomenal at preparing for teams. Their defense, their defensive scheme, their rides, everything is just it's different every game. And they play so well within themselves. It's the defense for Marquette that is scary because they turn the ball over. They're always in the right place. They communicate really well. And their face-off tandem is very impressive. They have Luke Williams, who's more of a counter, really athletic guy. So, dude, this is a tough one. What's the spread?
I don't have it on the notes. I can look it up quickly. But, I mean, I think like we alluded to earlier, I mentioned Villanova's, pretty firmly on the bubble. If you drop this one, it's Big East or bust. Then that's it. Villanova is in a similar position right now as Syracuse is. They have 2 games left. Villanova has Marquette and Georgetown. If you win both of those, you put yourself in a favorable position. You drop either of them, you got to win the Big East or bust. And it's a position that, unfortunately, Villanova, I know it far too well. They find themselves in that situation far too often. But I think this Villanova team has proven that their senior leaders, last year they had a bunch of fifth years who were mercenaries, came in and played awesome, and they led the team. But now we have some fifth years who decided to stay and come back. Matt Campbell, Pat Daly, who are just, having unbelievable seasons. Matt Campbell's going to be a first-round pick in the PLL, without a doubt. And Pat Daly's quietly chasing like a single-season goal record at Villanova right now. And he plays like lefty off ball. He's been dodging a little bit more. You can tell these guys are bigger and stronger. This Austin Frazier guy, he was a role player his first 4 years. This year, he's being a just dominant midi. I think he's like 20 and 20, just feeding and scoring. So, I mean, I'm obviously cheering on Villanova. I obviously would never bet against Villanova, but like you said, massive game.
Yeah, and it's similarly, BU and Lehigh, huge Patriot League implications. You got two great face-off guys. You got Sisselberger, the single-season all-time greatest face-off man in college lacrosse history. He's leading. You know what? By the way, he's not getting nearly enough credit right now, dude. He's leading the country in face-off percentage, and nobody wants to talk about it, and it's kind of offensive. And then he's playing Connor Calderon, who's a preseason All-American, phenomenal player in his own right, all-time face-off wins leader out of in Long Island high school history, and that'll be an awesome game. BU's favored in that one, but anything can happen in that game.
And with what you said about the Patriot League too, it's like, Army's 6-0 in the Patriot League, BU's 5-1, Lehigh's 5-1. So, I mean, this is going to be a dogfight to the end. I know everyone is leaning Army just because of their, overall record, but like you said, BU's 8-3 getting no love, Lehigh's 8-3 getting no love, and it's I feel like it's predicated off their kind of RPI, and people are, basing their rankings off they're getting skewed.
Well, also, look at to be fair, their out of conference schedule.
You're right. No, you're right. But
like,
still,
I think it's sad that I haven't gotten a chance to see a Mike Sisselberger versus Duke game, or a Mike Sisselberger again. And I'm saying Mike Sisselberger because he's my dude. And face-off wise, I want to see awesome matchups, and he just keeps going against the same guys every year. I'd love to see him go out there and light it up against a Syracuse or something. But we don't get that until tournament time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes against, I remember the last time they were in the tournament, they went against like a number 2 seed.
I think they played
99%.
They played Rutgers.
Yeah, it was like 99%. They lose.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we have some awesome games coming up. Those are some of the ones we highlighted. I think, just to round out this episode, I'd love to go through each league and tell me who you think, your champions are going to be in each league.
Oh, I like this. Okay.
ACC.
Notre Dame.
Big Ten.
Maryland.
Big East.
Georgetown.
Ivy.
Cornell.
Patriot League.
Lehigh.
Homer pick. I love it.
I couldn't keep going with the highest ranked squads.
Okay. Let me see. Who am I missing? A-Sun.
Dude, I don't even know who the hell's in that anymore.
Jacksonville and Utah are the front runners.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I'll take Jacksonville in that.
I'm rooting my butt off for Jacksonville. I think
I miss the SoCon, man.
I think that the SoCon. I think that they, will beat Duke early in the season, and now they're kind of playing more of a lackluster schedule, so they're not getting as much love as they were. And I think that loss to Utah hurt them, but I'm really rooting for them in the A-Sun. And then we have the MAC, some MACtion.
Where's Manhattan at right now?
Doing well.
I mean, I think Manhattan wins that conference. And then the CAA, I mean, Delaware is not getting nearly as much love as they deserve. I think this is not the same CAA that I'm used to. And I feel like this year Delaware is going to kind of run away with it.
I think we've talked about this before, but the CAA is such a dogfight too. Drexel, not an easy out. UMass, not an easy out. But, I agree, Delaware.
Is UMass still in the CAA?
Oh, I'm wrong. They're in the A-10. Excuse me.
Yeah, they ran away. UMass ran away from the CAA, man. That's a bummer.
Now, the CAA will never be the same. But no, I agree. Let's jump to the A10. Who do you think comes away with that one? Do you need me to tell you what teams are in it?
No, I think, either St. Joe's or UMass who are playing each other this weekend. So that'll be cool to watch.
I think St. Joe's has the advantage there, but like you said, UMass is a tough team. They beat Army. They're not an easy out. But no, I like that pick with St. Joe's. And then what the heck league am I forgetting? We did Ivy. We did A-Sun. We did American East. Is that still a league? I'm just on Google right now.
I think the American East is not a league this year, right?
Well,
no, they are.
Is Vermont in the American East still?
Vermont. Taking Vermont, son.
There we go. We got Vermont. And that is
Turbo Tommy Burke.
I love it. I like Vermont. I think they're a strong team. They played Cuse close early in the season. I know they were preseason kind of darlings after their
and
run.
Them and St. Joe's are both darlings that are underperforming this year for sure. That
are great for their leagues, right? And I think then sometimes they come out of conference and they get reality checks. But just to round it off, that's what's so great about the automatic bid when you win your league. You get a chance for these teams and these kids that don't often play on ESPNU or ESPN2, and they get to shine. And all of a sudden, you're watching these games, and you're like, like last year for St. Joe's, taking Yale down to the wire. You're like, holy shit, these kids are awesome, and these kids can ball. And we don't watch them that much. So that's what's great about how the NCAA does it for lacrosse. I know people complain that not enough teams get in, but hey, not everyone can get in. There's I think 8 or 9 at-large bids and the same either 8 or 9 AQs. So it's going to be fun to shake out, man. I'm excited to watch this season run down. It's gone by like a flash, I feel like.
I know. It's
so quick.
Really fast. I feel like the whole spring has, because we don't get spring anymore. So we get winter, it snows, and then 2 days later it's 90 degrees, you get sun cancer. So I feel like the spring, somehow the spring just got condensed. But yeah, I mean, we got this last week and then off the tournament time, man. I am so excited to discuss tournament time with you next week. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm juiced as well. Make sure you follow along with our podcast, giving you all of the updates from last week and all of our predictions and analysis for games coming up. We're so excited to break down this home stretch of college lacrosse. And then before we know it, we're going to be in the PLL season, and that's just a whole mess of more fun.
Draft is coming up, baby.
Yeah, and tune in. We'll be sure to preview the draft, give you what our thoughts are on the big boards. We didn't touch upon that too much. Be sure to tune in later episodes. We'll give you all the information and what you guys need to know as lacrosse fans in college and PLL. But man, Greg, another great episode in the books.
Just keep it running, baby. I love this.
Keep it running. Make sure if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, subscribe to our podcast and hit that download button. And if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the TorchPro YouTube channel. And as your host, Dan Seibel, I am out.